The Malaysian Prime Minister is holding a news conference. The news coming out is that Flight 370 ended in the southern Indian Ocean and that they have recovered some material, and all the families have been told that all lives have been lost. So they're going to hold another news conference tomorrow when they have more information, but the families have been told all lives have been lost on Flight 370, and that they're starting to find debris in the southern Indian Ocean in the Australian sector of the search area. We'll get to more of that throughout the hour and as things become available. Just the other day, I was thinking to myself, where's Congressman Shimkus been? He hasn't been around. He hasn't been darkening our doorstep in a while, and then I realized it. We were talking here off the air. Congressman John Shimkus, welcome back to Big 550 KTRS.
Thanks, McGraw. Great to be back with you.
You're a policy wonk guy. You're into governing, and there hasn't been a whole lot of governing going on, so there's been no reason to get you onto the show.
Yeah. Well, we do have a 2-year budget. We did have a spending bill. We got out of the shutdown mess, so
Right.
now we'll work on the spending bills for next year, and I've got my energy and commerce work going on. So,
Right.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Crimea. You're big with NATO. You know what's going on there. What are your thoughts as you sit and you watch Putin do this?
It's sad. I mean, because I have done a lot on the with the Baltic countries, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania.
Right.
I've traveled that area, do the NATO Parliamentary Assembly. Why you have NATO is a non-aggression alliance. Of course, Ukraine's not a member of NATO, so hence Russia's ability to invade with little response from us, just like they did in 2008 with the country of Georgia.
Right.
They occupy 2 areas there. They actually occupy an area between Poland and Lithuania called Kaliningrad. They're all oblasts, and they're military areas where Russia still has control. So I would hope that it doesn't go much further, because it does lead to tense continent. It hurts economic development and trade.
Right.
It's a scary time.
There's not much the U.S. could do. You mentioned the Georgia and this. I mean, a lot of people are throwing political bombs, but really there's not much the U.S. can do. It's not our backyard. It's not our deal.
Right.
Are we going to put troops there? Outside of troops, what more can the U.S. do?
Yeah, I don't think the Ukrainian government wants us to put troops there. I think they're probably trying to manage this crisis and try to protect as much of their territory as possible. You put U.S. or European troops in there, just will only incentivize, I think, the Russians and Putin from moving and seizing what he's claiming is to protect ethnic Russians who are in
Right.
these areas. The problem is there's a lot of places in Eastern Europe that have a large Russian population because of Russification,
Right.
where they moved Russians in to try to make those countries Russian versus whatever ethnicity they were. So there is not much that we can do other than show support, show a presence, and try to encourage actually no more movement by Russia into the territory of Ukraine.
What's interesting about this, and you can speak to this, and I don't know if it's been talked about nationally as much, but that is the billionaires in Russia are losing billions of dollars. I think the story on Friday came out, the ruble is falling apart, and the Russian stock market is plummeting, and the Russian billionaires have lost $22 billion since this crisis started. So that makes a phone call to Putin saying, hey, figure this out, because our economic interests are tied to the West, and if the West is somehow putting some type of sanctions on us, that doesn't sit well with those billionaires in Russia.
Yeah, you would hope that the economic stress from these oligarchs would put pressure on Putin. Putin's a nationalist. I mean, he's well off. He's living the life of in essence, a dictator. And in the eyes of the Russian people, he's only elevated himself.
Right.
So I don't know if he really cares that much. I think reestablishing the Russian Empire, or the old Tsarist regime, the old Soviet Union, it's part of who they are and their culture, and it's really naive of us to think that they're going to change anytime soon.
Yeah, interesting stuff. All right, Congressman Shimkus, what's it like to be in Washington these days? Are you not allowed to talk to the Democrats? The Democrats not allowed to talk to you?
Of course not. It's better, I think, for all of us after getting through last year. Last year was a very trying time. I mean, to have the government in essence shut down,
right.
And then for the length of it also was probably it was like, you could see where the hallways were not being swept and the trash was piling up. It felt like New York City when they go on the garbage strike. It's like it was getting pretty tough, and tempers and we're getting tight. And but bottom line is we're all have breathed a sigh of relief, and now we can govern.
Right.
We're not worried about an immediate shutdown. We're not worried about really a budget fight. I'm working on legislation on toxic chemicals with a couple of Democrat colleagues on my committee, and there are things that we have moved in a bipartisan vote. Look, we did the budget agreement,
right.
did the omnibus spending bill. The debt limit was all huge bipartisan votes, actually mostly Democrat votes versus Republican votes, but we have to govern. And I think that's even some of my friends on the far right, the Tea Party. They're good friends. They were helpful getting the majority, but they have to understand we do have to govern. We cannot walk away from governing. I deal in the world of nuclear waste. You guys have been covering nuclear waste type issues, and the federal government has a role based upon legacy issues, whether it's out in Washington State or whether it's nuclear power plants or whether it's World War II refuge.
Right.
We have a role, and that's a federal government responsibility. So when you shut down government, you risk these services that we have to perform.
Yeah. Let's talk about that Bridgeton landfill for a second, and the EPA and the Army Corps of Engineers. As this becomes more to the forefront, I'm getting questions of where do we go? What do we do? What is the end game with a nuclear waste site next to a burning landfill? Where do we go? What happens?
Yeah, I think that's what the elected leaders here in the state of Missouri are struggling with. They got a bipartisan letter. They're going forward. They're looking at, can the Corps of Engineers come in and get involved? I toured it, not to get any media, but I deal with some of the stuff.
Right.
And I wanted to see firsthand. And I know that the Roy Blunt, Lacey,
Ann Wagner,
they're all now united in trying to figure that out. Whether I've had a love-hate affair with the Army Corps of Engineers. I'm a military guy. I love the Corps. But, man, they sometimes are very bureaucratic and very difficult. So I'm not sure bringing them in is a solution. I think people have to – it's unfortunate we trust nobody anymore, right? We don't trust government. We don't trust the EPA. We don't trust the Corps. We had a scientific community do their independent research outside of the political. We wouldn't trust them, and that's the scary thing. I think if there was some folks who you brought in, some really smart people who were dispassionate on the issue, who had the scientific bona fides, I feel for the people in that community because they don't know where to turn.
But that's politics today. It's whoever has the message, whatever that message is, let's bash the messenger and let's discredit them so that no matter what they say, they're evil, they're a socialist, they're a Nazi, they're whatever the derogatory term is, so we can discredit whatever they say so we can acknowledge whatever the problem is. And so, because everyone's got their little fiefdoms going on, and nothing ever gets done.
As politicians, we're pretty schizophrenic on this issue too, because I work with the EPA quite a bit, and I bash them when I think they need to be bashed. But there are times when they're the only folks who have the responsibility to be, in essence, the dispassionate observer and say, no, it's safe, no, it's not. Now we do it with the FDA on drugs. I do it with the EPA on this chemical reform bill. I'm working with them to say, okay, we've got to be able to trust someone to say it's safe or it's not safe.
Mm-hmm.
And it should be the EPA.
Well, the thing that I think is so upsetting to the people of Bridgeton and the people who care in the St. Louis metropolitan area is that in Weldon Spring, you've entombed that same material in Weldon Spring, not next to a burning landfill.
Right. And
in Bridgeton, next to an airport, next to Earth City, next to Westport, next to Hazelwood and all this, you have a burning landfill next to the same site, and nobody seems to say, we've entombed it here. Why aren't we entombing it there?
Yeah, and i.e. a Superfund site, and then people moving expeditiously based upon the environment. All I know it's a legacy site. I mean, it's just like I experienced in rural America. Sometimes people move out to rural America,
right?
But then they move out, and there's a big livestock operation, and the wind shifts, and they go, holy cow, what is this smell?
Right.
Well, you moved out to rural America.
Right.
You should understand that there's different aspects.
Sure, but in this case, the smell is one thing, and you live around a landfill, you expect to smell whatever. You can sort of do what you can to sort of fix the smell. But it's another thing when they're building a trench so the fire doesn't get to the nuclear waste, and while digging the trench, they realize, oh my goodness, there is nuclear waste in this trench.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, no, it's not a good situation.
In terms of Obamacare and the Affordable Care Act, you've been against it from the beginning. What are your thoughts as this rollout now? I guess we're officially going to be living under it in another week or so.
Yeah, we're coming on the 4th anniversary, and I think my friends who were very supportive were hoping that this would be like the Maserati going down the highway at 95 miles an hour, and what you really have is more of a Model T chugging down the road. Politically, Democrats really need it to be the fast race car so that they can recover the opinion of the public, who's now sees it for what it is. There is a small sliver. I mean, me, McGraw, you followed me for a long time. There's a small sliver of people who benefited,
right?
And that's the Medicaid expansion folks. Now, of course, Missouri hasn't
done it.
Right. Illinois has. You can find people who now have access, but Medicaid, what the administration's touting. Oh, now kids can stay on their family's policy to 26. Oh, now we have Medicaid expansion. Well, these aren't things that really, they came in on Obamacare, but they're not really the health care reform portion of that bill, right, where you had to get penalized or you had these other challenges. So on the state exchanges or the federal exchanges and the operation just signing up has been a disaster. And most people who now have to either migrate from their employer-sponsored to an Obamacare coverage or a state exchange are paying more and getting less. And I think that's the true story. People are higher premiums, higher deductibles, or higher copays, and their coverage is less. And that's why the general opinion by the public still today is that it's been a negative impact on not only their health care coverage, but the economy overall.
Are the Republicans going to come out with their own health care plan?
That's a good. We've had numerous times, even when the Obamacare bill was moving forward, we have what's called motions to recommit, which is to offer the alternative, and the offer is competitive markets across state lines, medical liability reforms, high deductibles, catastrophic pools. So for when people say we have no plan, they're just not following. They're listening to the talking heads, and they're not following the public policy and the proposals that are out there. Now, there is a debate about us doing it again just to answer these questions. But for people to have insurance, I think that's an important thing. For there to be a vibrant health insurance market, that's it. The problem is with Obamacare is that you only can buy 1 of 4 packages. You can't buy the packages that are specifically that you need, but there's not a thriving market.
Right, but insurance doesn't work that way.
Oh, insurance does, and homeowners insurance and automobile insurance.
Right.
Sure, it does.
But homeowners insurance, I've got to. I have to buy fire. I have to buy whatever.
Well, you don't have to. You could let your house burn down, and then you wouldn't have any coverage.
Exactly. However, with health insurance, I don't want to buy cancer insurance because I don't have cancer.
Yeah, but you just have a catastrophic coverage. So what's catastrophic? That means, again, your house burns down. I mean, you fall off the roof and you're in the hospital for 5 or 10 days. That's enough to cover catastrophic coverage.
Right, but minor surgery is done on you. It's major when it's done on me. Yeah. So what is catastrophic coverage? You got to cover everything, or it doesn't work.
No, you don't have to cover. You don't have to. Why should we have? Why should you have child's health care or child's dental in your policy?
Oh, well, look.
Well, I don't want to go there, but
no. You are exactly right. John Carney's son has hemophilia.
Right.
The bills are extraordinary.
Right.
I don't have any children.
Right.
I shouldn't have to buy his hemophilia medicine.
You're not buying it, but you're paying for it.
Well, but that's insurance, right? I mean.
Yeah, but you have that coverage too.
I understand that, but I don't have any children, so you can't. Insurance is not a la carte, right? I mean, you can't
No, it
buy
is. It should be a la carte.
No,
because if they want to actuarially make those adjustments, it's at the highness, not on the individual aspects of the policy. It's on the high. Even
so, only men who have testicular cancer should be covered for testicular cancer.
No, that's where you roll it into the catastrophic packages.
We need more time for this. Congressman Shimkus, we'll let you go. Always a pleasure. Anything new on the campaign front, right? You're running for re-election, running along?
Yeah,
fine?
my new district is really on the eastern part of the state now. It goes from Danville, Illinois, which is 3/4 of the way up,
right,
all the way down to Kentucky on the east side,
right,
and then you follow 70 all the way to Collinsville. So it's 33 counties, and it's a big area.
And those liberals over there, what are they doing? Always a pleasure. Good friend. Travel safe, and we'll see you down the road.
Thanks, you, McGraw.
That's